spinning bucket drum and with a conveyor belt inside. And so when these buckets come up to the top of the bucket drum, they dump directly onto the conveyor belt that's inside the bucket drum. And NYU is running their conveyor belt initially because they're not concerned with carrying any of this topsoil. They want to get down to the rocks that are buried beneath the topsoil. This is the Minnesota Twin Cities robot. You can see they also have a bucket drum system, smaller width, but larger buckets, I would say. Even though they have a smaller width, they're much deeper buckets. And so these buckets on this Twin Cities robot, the material actually falls out directly onto this conveyor belt mounted on the side of the spinning bucket wheel. And now you can see the buckets on that Minnesota robot are now touching the topsoil and digging into it. So the robot on the left, the entire bucket wheel moves up and down linearly right in the middle of the robot, whereas on the Minnesota robot, the bucket is on the end of an arm. Different designs. One is not for sure better than the other. Only time will tell which of these teams ends up doing better. Now, I'm guessing the New York University students are watching very closely the depth that they're digging and making sure that they don't accidentally dump out some of these rocks, which are scoring material. The topsoil does not give you any score in this competition this year. Only the rocks that are buried beneath the topsoil are scoring material. You can see both the teams of students in the control room. They can't see the robots directly. They can only see the data and very low resolution camera feeds. The students cannot see the camera feeds we're looking at right now, which are nice high resolution feeds. The ones on the top are our high resolution feeds. The camera streams on the bottom of the screen right now are actually the low resolution camera feeds that the students have access to. You can see the difference in the quality, can't you? But we've done this because we want this to mimic as close as we can a remotely operated robotic mission to the moon or to Mars. So that's why we're specifically giving the students low quality camera feeds to kind of simulate that sort of mission. 5.5 or just under 6 minutes remaining for these two teams. This is their second run, and teams are only going to get 2 runs in this competition this week. NYU, New York University. Now you'll notice NYU is still digging, but their conveyor belt has stopped dumping this material. So you can see some marks on the side of the NYU's robotic excavator, and those are probably the marks where the team has decided beforehand, this is where we're going to stop dumping this stuff. This is where we're going to maintain on board everything that we're digging. So the NYU robot has stopped their spinning bucket wheel, and they're raising up their digging mechanism, which is basically the whole center of that robot is a very large digging mechanism. You can see they've written 6 and 12 on the side of their robot. I'm guessing that's in inches. Meanwhile, the University of Minnesota robot is still digging, getting pretty deep. It's slow but sure, and it is getting pretty deep. Now they've raised it up. You can see one of the Minnesota students has his hands on a gamepad controller. And I believe also one of the new NYU students has his hands on a game controller. So it's quite possible, although not for certain, that both of these teams are manually controlling these robots. Teams do get extra points for deciding to not manually control a robot and having all the sensors and software necessary for automation, but some teams have decided it's not worth the trouble, it's not worth the risk, and we will go ahead and manually control. Now, NYU Robot is making its way back to the lander where it started and is lining itself up. You can see the side of the robot has a flap sticking out, and so this NYU team is going to need to get that flap lined up and over the top of the hopper, the receiving hopper, and then they'll turn on their onboard conveyor and we'll see what comes out. Hopefully, a lot of rocks will come out. So what happens is a mix of rocks and loose soil will come out, loose crushed volcanic rock will come out, and then the judges will kind of filter or sieve out, and they will collect just the rocks and weigh those rocks, and later on we'll get a score from each team, and we'll find out exactly how many kilograms of rock that they were able to deposit onto the hopper. Do my eyes deceive me? Is this run over? Because I have no idea how much time is left. 2 minutes. I lost the data on my display here. 2 minutes remain for NYU and Minnesota Twin Cities. All right, NYU, let's get that hopper. Let's get that conveyor belt going. Meanwhile, Minnesota Twin Cities has decided to come back and see how much they have on board. So it took both of these robots about 8 minutes to get to this point, which implies that they're not going to have time to go back for a second cycle. So this is going to be it. This is the second run for both of these teams, and this could be their only. There we see movement on the Minnesota robot. What they're going to do is lift up their basket, which is holding all the material. That basket is full of holes because they're only interested in the rocks. So those holes are going to allow all of the loose material to fall away, and what should come out are just the rocks. And so the students are moving the robot back and forth to try and knock the rocks out of the basket and get them to, okay. Try and get those rocks deposited onto the hopper. I kind of wish that robot was just a little bit taller, but there's nothing that can be done now. Once you land a robot on the moon, you can't go back and redesign it. It is what it is. We're down to under 30 seconds. And I haven't seen NYU's robot. I think it's over because the judges have come in. So our timer's a little bit off. We apologize for that. But it looks like that run is over for these two teams. That was so close. Now, Minnesota did deposit something for sure. I had trouble seeing whether NYU was able to actually deposit something, but they dug a lot. Let's give both of these teams a big hand. NYU, great job, NYU. Regardless of whether you actually got anything deposited, that was a really good run. And University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, oh my gosh, they're a rookie team. That was amazing, especially for a rookie team.